Monday, July 8th, I work at the library to help direct a bat house for the library. It goes into the library garden, and that house, so we worked on that Monday morning for quite a while. Tuesday, went to the car show, and I thought it was quite good, very well attended, lots of cars. It brought a lot of people in the town, I think. And on the 11th of July, Yolo Habitat Executive Committee met, and I was in that meeting. On the 15th, I met with a citizen concerned with city politics and unrest, and just try to smooth out the water. And on the 15th, also met with Yolo Habitat Conservancy, and we're working at finding a new CEO for the Conservancy. Treya Marchand has been trying to retire for about a year now, and so we have a interim CEO, Dirk Brazil, who will serve for 1 year. He said he's only going to serve for 1 year, and during that time, we're going to be trying to find a new full-time, long-time CEO.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Kellogg.
Thank you, Mayor. On the 8th, I attended the Chamber Mixer at Steady Eddie's, which was real well attended. They introduced the new Chamber Executive Director, Sue. And on the 9th, I attended the car show. And as Councilmember New stated, it's a huge turnout this month with the weather being so nice. On the 11th, I attended the 1-year reunion with the Parking Committee, where we reviewed what has and has not been completed and where we need to head from here. Also on the 11th, I met with the city manager to review tonight's meeting. And then I also took a tour of Hotel Winners. It's coming along real nicely. A lot of the rooms are complete, bedding and all, ready to go. So they're getting closer every day. And then I also attended, I think it was last Saturday, the grand opening for the Flying Pig next to Steady Eddie's, which is a nice little shop. And then also last Friday evening, I attended the grand opening of the Winners Collective, which is a very nice little shop next to El Pueblo. That's all I have.
Thank you. On July 8th, I also attended the Chamber Mixer, where, as Councilmember Cowan said, that we introduced the new Executive Director, Sue Mullen, who is here in the audience tonight. Welcome, Sue. And it was hosted by Steady Eddie's Roasters. It was nice. The first time I've been in there, they've done a very good job fixing the place up. On the 9th, I also attended the Classic Car Show, and as stated earlier, it was perfect weather for a car show, great turnout, a lot of cars there, so it was a really good event downtown. On the 11th, I also attended a parking committee reunion / update meeting. And on the 12th, I attended the Chamber Board meeting, making plans for the upcoming Earthquake Festival. I think it's on August 23rd, they're on the calendars. And on the 15th, I met with the city manager to review tonight's agenda. So thank you everyone for all your hard work and your time. Okay, we will now move along to public comments. This is for anything that is not on tonight's agenda. Anyone would like to speak? Yes, please come forward.
Good evening, Al Vallecillo on 10 Main Street. And I'm sort of here to say thank you for Mayor Biasi for proposing a workshop meeting be held regarding the North Area annexation last meeting. But to be specific, and I sent you all a letter earlier today, probably have it. Just get to the point. The process has started. The developer is working on a specific plan. You may not have it in front of you, John may not have it on his desk, but it's happening. And it's happening without the input of any citizens in the community. And, So the discussion moved well beyond just talking. And the city has accepted some form of exchange. They've exchanged money with the developer in some form. And so there must be some sort of service being performed. And that's all I have to say without going through the whole letter. So you have it in your record. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to non-agendized items? Okay, so I just want to make it clear, that's why we brought it up. I mean, it's not an agendized item tonight. There's no discussion on it. The purpose of that workshop is so that we can address all these questions. We brought up some good points. And those are the types of things that will be addressed at a future workshop, which is in the planning stages.
Will there be some opportunity for public input in the
Yes.
workshop?
Absolutely. Okay. We're going to move on now to the consent calendar.
Mayor and Council, a couple of items tonight. Item A are the minutes from the July 2nd regular meeting. Item B is a revised memorandum of understanding between the city and Gilroy County Housing for the wastewater services that we provide. Sometimes given to the council, they're in the agreement, kind of taking a liberty to just clarify a couple of sections under the service section. There's a reference, there's actually a very old reference to the fact that the main pump station is at the same place as the wastewater treatment facility. That was wrong, just squiggled that out. Under section 5 of the agreement, there's a real simple, the first part of that agreement, all it needs to say is what the current rate is. There's extraneous information that's not necessarily timely or applicable. So just to make it very simple, it just states what the rate is. So we have that agreement. The services actually go down, or not the services. The service rate actually goes down with Yellow Housing. We have a very good partnership with them. We actually have a surplus and a capital reserve with them. We're doing a couple of projects as mentioned in the staff report, but this is just a continuation of the same agreement for the most part. Item C is a claim that's been filed against the city. And item D is a resolution which essentially authorizes the city staff to move forward with various aspects of phase 2 for the influent screen project out of the wastewater treatment facility. This is essentially positioning us for an upcoming, let's just say, a grant opportunity or funding opportunity from the state. We're just going to hold this. If the funding opportunity becomes available, then we'll move forward with that. But this is just positioning us for whatever they may define as shovel ready. There's no room to counter funding opportunity from the state budget that we've just positioned, and that's what this does. And that is the consent calendar.
Thank you. Any questions? If not, I'll open it up for motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar with the suggested changes on item B.
Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? None. Passes unanimously. Okay, tonight we have two presentations. The first one will be Robert Burris from the Solano Economic Development Corporation. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
And just the sign of the support now. Advance the
Thank you.
slides.
All right. Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. We've had some great conversations, John and Dan McGuire, about what we're doing in Solano in terms of economic development. Some of the changes that we've made over the last 2 years that really improve what we're able to do in terms of business attraction and retention and all those things that economic development organizations do. I've always looked at Winners as a very close partner of Solano's and very similar in economics and desirable industries as well. So we'd like to find a way to work together, and maybe the synergy will create some opportunities for winners and Solano as well. So we thought it might be a good idea to talk a little bit about what we're doing at the EDC, what our priorities are, where we've been over the last year, and how that's changed over the last really couple of years. And we're very excited about what we're doing. I just a brief introduction. I've been involved in economic development for 25 years in regional economic development. Currently on the board of directors for CALED, which is California Association for Local Economic Development, and I'm chair of the legislative committee. So I get to look at all the 2,700 bills making its way through the legislature and finding those ones that affect economic development and the health of our economy, and discussing that with CALED to see which ones the 750 practitioners of economic development would like to take on and talk about. So with that, I'll give it a start here. So you move this up and up. Okay. So our interlinking initiatives. So about 3 years ago, we initiated something called Moving Solano Forward. The EDC was doing some great things, a lot of things, but nothing really spectacular that would move the needle and create real opportunities for Solano. So as a group, with public comment, with community development, with consultants coming from Sonoma State and other organizations, we came together to find everything from how the EDC should operate, what should be our priorities, what industries are most important to this larger region, and how we go after it while we focus our efforts and the resources that we have. And I won't go into all the details of this, but we came up with this wheel with really 4 focus items. The top being business retention. So everybody always says it's easier to keep a company than to go out and grab them and bring them into the area. That's really important. So we have an outreach methodology to go speak with all of our high priority companies within the region to make sure that they know they have an outlet for any problems that need solutions. So that's been really successful to all of the areas within Solano. And then marketing and business attractions is a big focus of what we're doing. So we've put a lot of resources toward social media outlets, earned media, attending conferences, and I'll go over some of that, but we're dedicating a lot of resources towards bringing new investment jobs to the region. And then the bottom half is really becoming a stronger partner within the region. So improving the competitiveness of the area, which is one, going out and seeking investment, public financing, larger projects where the region can become more competitive with those larger projects outside of our region and outside of the state many times, and then becoming a resource hub. So I came from an organization where we created our own research center within the organization that became a service to the community. So we've developed that as well with the Solano EDC. Oops, no, backwards. So one of the things we did last year is we created a 32-point action plan. I hate visioning statements and strategies that sit on the shelf. I always want to convert them into implementation plans. So we did just that with goals, with due dates, and by the end of the year, the degree of completion for each one of them. And we completed each one of those 32 action points and created another 35 for this next year. That included everything from operational goals to the number of prospects that we're talking to, the number of jobs created, and all those types of metrics that are really important to what we do in economic development. We continued growing our investment in capacity, so continued gathering private investors as well as public. We expanded our marketing intensity and reach, and we're growing continue to grow the number of prospects and those affiliated jobs with each one of those. So one of the most important things that we haven't been able to do in the last 5 or 10 years as an EDC that we've just started doing this last year is hitting the road. There's a lot of conferences, trade shows, gatherings of companies, investors, and company leaders that we need to be in front of. So visibility is critically important, especially in Solano. What's been known for a long time is the corridor region, which is something that one of the first things I did when I came into this position is, and I went and spoke in front of our luncheon crowd, is I put a curse jar on my podium and said, if I hear corridor region, that's $5 in the curse jar right there. So moving beyond that is the place in between a lot of big regions to being a place where everything kind of comes together. So Solano is really important in that fact. Its central proximity and the mobility within the region is really important for Northern California's economic health. So making sure that people are aware of that. We're getting very involved in sponsorships and placed advertising. So we're putting the word out there, and we're paying for advertising in those publications that are really important and are read by the right people. So C-level, corporate folks, consultants, brokers throughout the country and even beyond. We're really involved in statewide organizations, even international organizations. So I said CalEd, International Food Technologists Association, BIO, Cornet. All these organizations are where these companies gather on a regular basis. And we get out there quite a bit to be in front of them. Social media was really important to us. I'm going to go through some of our numbers, but we had nearly no social media presence 2 years ago. And now we're at about 25,000 impressions a month and the right impressions. We're creating new content. We actually have a content manager consultant that we work with to continue the flow of information going out to the public. And we've improved our webpage to be really effective for companies looking at the region for potential investment. So I was talking about revenue and our capacity. That's the way I look at it. It's our capacity to do things that we haven't been able to do in the past. So where we are in 2016, we were at about $390,000 budget. So with our Moving Solano Forward plan, we went out to our jurisdictions and we asked for them to bring it up to the national standard, which is about 40 cents per capita. And that brought us up to that lower gap, that first gap. And with that, I took a list of all the things that I want to do as an organization that really bring us up to that next level. And I started talking to our major private investors. So a lot of the larger companies, large and small, that want to play an active role in growing the economy. And I was able to do that and raise us by about another 60%. So with that, we're at the highest budget we've ever had as an organization, and it's 25 to 30 years. And my goal is to hit $1 million within the next couple of years. Talk about money, that's really important for our ability to grow our staff, because one thing you know in economic development, if you're really successful in casting your fishing line out there and they start coming in, you've got to have the broadband, the bandwidth to be able to work with them, take them on tours, spend time with them, and get companies through the process of landing in your area. So that's really important as well. So I won't go through each one of these, but these are some of the conferences and trade shows that we attended. And what you'll see through all of these organizations and conferences is a common theme of our desired industry clusters. And it's really three. Food innovation, ag tech, and agriculture, really important to this region. And that's one of our top priorities going after. And the beauty of that industry cluster is it's a variety of size, of look, of technological maturity. It connects UC Davis with this region. It connects UC Berkeley and all of the other engineering schools with this region as well. And that really gives us a competitive advantage. The other area is advanced materials. So we're talking about different materials, chemicals, all of those that go into supporting the biological and tech communities. So those are the supply chain areas for those types of industries, and supporting the Department of Defense, which we have Travis Air Force Base in Solano as well. And then life science and biotechnology, also critically important to this region. Down the road here, you have one of the biggest biomanufacturers in the United States with Genentech. And we're seeing a tremendous amount of movement from the South Bay and East Bay up into the Solano region, looking to a place that's still, that they consider within close, well, I shouldn't say close proximity, within proximity to the Bay Area, where they can maintain some of their key talent and allow them to live in East Sac and allow them to commute, but take advantage of some of the affordability, cost effectiveness, and room to grow that they simply don't have in places like South San Francisco and West Berkeley and Emeryville right now. So some of the other advantages to this area that we try to promote: cost of living. So affordability, Solano is one of the most affordable areas in Northern California. Still get a home in the $400,000 to $600,000 range compared to south of Carquinez, which is just about double. That's really important, especially when you're talking about the placemaking element of these companies landing in the area, because they need to find a comfortable place with a high quality of life for their key employees to live. And that's becoming a bigger and bigger part of these companies making a move, commitment, and taking on risk. And then proximity, as I mentioned before, not only proximity, but mobility. We have tremendous transportation lines in and out of Sacramento and the Bay Area that makes this area fantastic traditionally in logistics and warehousing. And we're transitioning that to the higher intensity workforce, higher wage jobs, and high quality companies that are in manufacturing and technology trades. So the number that I'm most proud of, and one that we look at as a key metric, is our prospects. So the number of companies that we're talking to now as opposed to a year ago, February. So we were at about 12 companies that were on our prospect list when we came aboard. Most of those had fallen on our lap from the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development. And we continue to work with those. So those areas in blue, orange, and gray, those are our targeted industries, the ones that we go after, grab, we make contact, and we pitch to as a regional economic development group. Now on the far right in June, we're about sevenfold where we were at 72 prospects. I think as of today, we're 74. And you'll see that the majority of those are in those targeted areas, really important to us. And you'll see in that little box in the upper right how important manufacturing R&D is to us. That's 81% of the companies that we're talking to. Not necessarily huge companies, but have high impact, big investment, and have higher than average wage jobs. These are companies that we assisted in the last year. Thistle from San Francisco selected Vacaville for its 250 employee site for plant-based meal kits. They'll be consolidating their Berkeley production and lab facilities into Vacaville, about 80,000 square feet. Gotham Greens is a company out of Manhattan, New York, believe it or not. They have leafy green growing facilities in Brooklyn, Queens, Chicago, and now Solano County. So it's really important for them to supply both consumers and the culinary industry here. It's very hard to grow some of these leafy greens. It's the quality north of Monterey, so their greenhouses will allow that, and they'll be building about 100,000 square feet of greenhouses north of 80 as you approach Davis. Hire is a distribution facility. They own GE Appliances. They'll be building about 500,000 square feet in Dixon. And IMOD Structures creates modular commercial space, primarily classrooms, for growing communities and communities that are rebuilding right now. So a lot of the fire-stricken communities. And they just received $15 million in venture capital. They're operating on Mare Island right now, across from several other manufacturers, including our Factory OS that builds modular housing. So there's a lot of stuff on here. I won't get too far into the details, but this is our social media gauges. Again, we hit 25,000 last month in impressions. We're growing on our followers. We're placing a lot of media in magazines between Sacramento and the Bay Area, national magazines as well, like Site Selection Magazine. And I get out on the road quite a bit. So I do quite a few speaking engagements throughout the region and beyond. Try to get involved in the communities that we support. And then we sponsor a lot of parties outside of the region as well to make sure that people know that it's the Solano EDC bringing them this fun. So in Cornet in San Francisco, their holiday party had Solano up projected on the wall during their party with 350 people in the middle of San Francisco, and that was really exciting for us. So, and the tools on our website, I was talking about how we've improved our website. So we now have what they call Zoom Prospector and Zoom Info. So it's real-time information, demographics. People can do radius circles around their sites that they're looking at to locate. We can show any of the available facilities within any of our cities, our region, up on this map, and you can click on it to see all of the details of that site. They can really gather any information they want, and most of the time they end up giving us a call because they're interested in what they see. We also have some software in this program so we can see who's looking at us as well. So kind of harnessing our inner creep a little bit to see who's looking at us. And we very subtly reach out to them, oftentimes to see if they'd ever be interested in Solano. And that's been very effective for us. So as I mentioned, in terms of Resource Hub, we're creating the Solano Economic Research Center. We can provide economic impact analyses and competitive analysis and supply chain studies, and those for the communities that are engaged with us, for companies that are interested in looking at our area. We'll do full studies for them. If there's a project that we believe will have a great impact, or the company would like us to take a look at that, we can do full in-plan economic impact analysis. And for relatively small impact studies, we do that for free. So if you were looking at a project that wanted something in terms of what would be the greater impact, what would be the multiplier, what would be the potential tax revenues with our software that we've purchased, we can do that type of study. So, and we also do service contracts. So we're doing a number of studies and marketing programs with Solano STA, Solano Transportation Authority. That's one of our prominent supporters as an organization. The Travis Community Consortium, Solano County, we're doing a number of things with. PG&E, we're working on Energy Watch, and that's been incredible. It's saved our community about 2.5 megawatts just in the last 2 years of power for our small businesses. And that turns into cost savings. So cost mitigation is really important for us to support our small businesses. And then we work with construction companies, developers on impact studies and the like. So, I wanted to develop a couple slides to talk about my thoughts about winners and our competitive analysis. And I know a strategy was just developed, and I'm sure this is consistent with those thoughts as well. But I think in terms of real opportunities, I think UC Davis is very important as they start to build up their capacity for spin-off activity. I think 10 years ago, licensing and royalty type of a research organization where there weren't a lot of companies coming out of that. Now with their new efforts and their redirection of their venture catalyst group, last I heard, 17, 18 companies came out of the university last year, and we had 2 or 3 look at our region in Solano. All were involved in life sciences, all had investors from the Bay Area up to the North Bay. And all were on a very fast growth pace. So we want to get involved in those types of activities. Companies wanting to be near UC Davis. So that the Thistle company that I mentioned, they don't need a formal partnership. They don't need funding. They don't need a academic connection, but they want to be near UC Davis. They want to attract their talent. They want to be associated with them. And if organically it happens they develop a partnership, great. But that brand of UC Davis is really important for companies too. So we see a lot of food innovation companies wanting to land in or near that campus. And that's a growing opportunity for us in Solano County. The labor pool, so labor pool here, and even in Solano, not a huge area. But if you just go out 30 miles, 650,000 in the labor pool, and very talented employees, very talented labor pool, that's important to companies. Of course, affordability is important. We're very active in developing an agri-food innovation area in Northeast Solano. And that includes talking to the feds, talking to EDA about a feasibility study. And this entire Northeast portion of the county and Winters would be a part of that study, where we find our priority sites for this type of development, but also potentially infrastructure dollars to help build out the sites. It would be really important. And then, I hate to play off the negative side of any other of our regions, and I do consider the Sacramento region a friendly Not all of our regional partners are friendly to us, but Sacramento is. But it is difficult to develop, especially larger scale technology space. And when I say larger scale in technology, 5,000 square feet or more. Very difficult to build in Davis, Woodland, and even West Sac right now. So we have relationships with a lot of the developers that work in that space. And in fact, they're looking and prospecting in our region to develop their next technology campuses. So in the tactics, I think multiple connections in UC Davis are important. I've always thought a real connection with the commercial brokerage ranks in Sacramento are also important. And that's where I come from. So I know most of the brokers. In fact, I started my career with Brevin Ellis as their research director. So I know them very well. And I know that circle of communication brings in a lot of opportunities nationally and even internationally. Companies and venture capital from the Bay Area, that's becoming critically important. As they're running out of targets within the Bay Area, they're broadening their areas of opportunity. With my association with CalEd and EDA, I think there's some real opportunities for layering public finance for specific projects and longer term projects, and I could bring them to the table. We're continuing to educate deal makers on the virtues of winters in Solano County, and that's critically important to our health as an economy, to make sure that folks outside of this area understand the opportunity that exists here and the quality of life, and directly bringing companies and projects to winners through our international network and innovation network. I think that's something where we can provide a lot of assistance to John and his team, and we'd be very happy to be a part of that. So I'm going to end there and open it up to any questions that you might have. Just very briefly, so this is one of the things I did early on. I took pictures. This is very unsafe, so I wouldn't recommend this to anybody. But took pictures of what most Bay Area folks think of when they hear Solano, and it's 80, right? It's about 200 feet off north of 80, and about 200 feet south of 80, and this is what they see. And what I've tried to do over the last year and a half is change their view, or at least mix that into the views that I've been able to experience, really looking around Solano and seeing some of the sites and getting very active in the community. And it really is a beautiful place, and I need to get this type of vision out there to make sure that others realize it is too. So I'll end on that note, and happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you.
Sure.
Comments from the council? Okay. I'd just like to say, I see that, looks like you're doing a lot of good work there.
Thank you.
And I can see, I was on the Economic Development Committee here.
Yes.
And we have discussed a lot of those things,
Yeah.
of course, in a much smaller scale.
Yeah.
One of the top recommendations in that report was getting some connections with other groups in the area like yours.
Mhm.
See how we could work together.
Yeah.
See some good collaboration in the future.
Thank you. One of my mantras has always been, economic development is a team sport. And for the most part, these companies that are looking at certain regions don't see borders. So they're looking at certain areas.
So the one thing that we're working on is trying to get information out about the economic report. And the two first recommendations from that report talk about collaboration. One of the things that Mr. Verse brings up is the jobs that are created. And one thing certainly in Winters is we have so many people that are looking to work within this community. One of the best examples is out of Hotel Winters. Literally, they had a job fair here, where literally hundreds of people showed up, and many of them from Winters looking to get a job, to be able to work in town. And that's one of the key things as we look at sustainability, as we look at climate issues, as we look at so many things, the ability to generate jobs locally are so important. Um, the reality for us, most of our residents who work, they drive out of town and they make a right-hand turn on the 505. So many of the residents here head south and they head right into Solano County within probably about 10 minutes of acceleration from our border. And there's certainly a tremendous amount of opportunity. Mr. Burst has been so generous to us as Dan and I have talked with him. I mean, it's like Christmas. He brings out all these different things that I think potentially could give the city, the community. They're all about partnerships. The vast majority of their funding comes from the private sector. The idea that private companies are looking to be able to enhance what they do. The examples that he showed up on the board fall right into our niche: food, technology, ag technology, and I always like to brag that Winters in the east of 505, we have some of the best minds in agriculture right here. It happens right in Winters, California. Last week, I was at an event in Sacramento, and I try and tell people that the young Bill Gates and the young Steve Jobs of the agricultural industry are right here. They're working every day, and it's that next generation that spin off of a lot of the things that they're doing. They're part of the attractiveness, and in so many ways, having the collaboration to get those vehicles, I think, is important. So we'll bring some of this back to the council, and big thanks to Mr. Burst for coming here tonight.
Well, thank you.
I just want to add to that. I am very encouraged that you are focusing a lot towards agriculture and the food part of it.
Absolutely.
Some of the key things that we wanted to bring to our area, being an agricultural town is how we were started, and try to keep those types of things going.
Absolutely. Yeah, food and agricultural technology and innovation in that area is an incredibly important opportunity for this region. And one other quick thing, if I might mention, the way we value, my background is as an economist, the way I value these types of new opportunities is the value of the output and the jobs that they create. So to me, a company, a technology, an innovative company of 5 people is worth more to a community than a warehouse of 500,000 square feet and 50 employees. Way more economic impact, way more impact, positive impact on the community, and that's the way I've always approached things. So,
Thank you.
thank you very much, appreciate it.
Okay, next presentation, we have Police Chief John Miller with Police Officer Commendations.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, manager, and members of the public. First of all, I want to apologize for our appearance. We've just literally finished the range. The gentleman you see in the red shirts has been out there since at least 7 a.m. this morning. And you can see they make the chief even roll around in the dirt sometimes. So, it's my pleasure to be appearing for tonight to do some commendations. The Winters Police Department, obviously, we have internal commendations. We call them attaboys, just usually on a memo form. We had a couple of things that I want to bring in front of the city council to recognize these employees, these officers, for what they have done. Completely coincidence, they were working the range. All 3 of them are in the red shirts that I'm going to be recognized tonight. So I appreciate you squeezing me in on the agenda for tonight. So let's see, first up, all right, Alan Bennett. Officer Alan Bennett, will you come up here for me, please? All right, so Officer Alan Bennett is being recognized for his project bringing naloxone, which is otherwise known as Narcan, to the Winters Police Department. Now, Officer Bennett has developed an interest in what we call TEMS, which is Tactical Emergency Medicine, which is what we use in law enforcement. Going back several years ago when our Sergeant Schroeder was working for us, Officer Bennett and Sergeant Schroeder worked with the Winters Healthcare to develop a emergency trauma kit. They're individual 1 patient packs. For the Winters Police Department, we carry 2 of those in each of our vehicles. So if we have a trauma kit or trauma incident, we can break that out. He continued that interest and was actually very, very much ahead of the curve when he brought naloxone. And it was just on his own initiative, came to me and asked, well, heck, what about carrying this? Said, look into it. He has connections in the emergency medical field, and he was able to obtain the naloxone for free of charge to the Winters Police Department. He then also developed a deployment and training program and put it all into place. Tracy, you hit the next slide. So Narcan is obviously, well, if those that don't know, is used to counter the effects of an opioid overdose, such as heroin, fentanyl, et cetera. It is a danger to not only the community, but also to police officers, especially with fentanyl. Since, again, he was very much ahead of the curve, since he brought it to our agency in 2018, it has now become a statewide protocol that all agencies now have access to it free of charge. I did not know until recently that he had not been recognized for his efforts, and that's why I wanted to bring it to your attention. So we're giving Officer Alan Panett a commendation in recognition of your initiative in obtaining and developing a deployment program for naloxone, Narcan, at the Winters Police Department in the calendar year 2018. As a result of your efforts, the Winters Police Department was the first law enforcement agency in Yolo County to have this life-saving product available to its officers and residents. Presented before the assembled Winters City Council on behalf of the City of Winters and our residents, July 16, 2019. Thank you, Alan.
If I gotta use it, you're in bad shape.
I do appreciate the initiative, again, of officers taking the initiative, looking for these needs. Thankfully, we have not had to use the product. We have had overdoses here in the past before that we certainly could have had to, used it. All right, Tracy, could you do the next slide for me? And I'm going to call Detective David Gonzalez. So, the gentleman you're looking at the screen is Margarito Alvarez. Mr. Alvarez was just convicted and sentenced June 28th of this year for 6 counts of lewd and lascivious acts against a minor and 1 count of lewd and lascivious acts against a minor with force or violence. He was sentenced on June 28th to 90 years to life in the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. All right. Detective Gonzalez obviously headed up that investigation, and he is being recognized for that effort. So the commendation reads, in recognition of your exceptional efforts investigating and contributing to the prosecution of a serial child sexual predator from May 2018 to June of 2019. As a direct result of your efforts, the suspect received a sentence of 90 years to life and was remanded into custody of the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation to serve his sentence, ensuring he will not continue to victimize the most vulnerable members of our community. Presented before the assembled Winters City Council on behalf of the City of Winters and our residents, July 16, 2019.
As I mentioned before, this is all team effort coming from you guys up here and the Westmark Department and Chief as well. There's definitely, I can't do this alone, so I thank their community, the police department, and everybody else who helped me with this case.
Kind of side note, it was a 4-week jury trial. Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
So this is a pretty amazing accomplishment because probably in the history of our department, we've never gotten a conviction like this. We have one conviction that resulted from a homicide that no body. But this is probably one of the biggest vulnerabilities that we have in our community, of things that have simply gone on too long. As we work with a very small police department with limited resources, and as we work to build up our economy, the city's organization, and the needs of this community, this is a prime example where we benefited from the initiative of one of our officers who we kind of doing half-time school resources officer, half-time being a detective. This is something that he picked up that in a lot of cases, our officers go from, they do a report, and it just, a lot of things just don't. In this case, Detective Gonzalez pieced together something from, 8 years ago and pieced it all together. This guy was molesting children in this community for years, a serial rapist, children. And Detective Gonzalez's efforts to piece this together with the other members of the department. But the reality is that as people look and say, well, gosh, why do we need various things? This is a very prime example. And there are other people like him out in the community. Sometimes it takes a dedicated person doing this, but oh my goodness, what Dave did with the department, this thing was a 4-week trial. Getting 90 years in prison is serious in today's world. I mean, it takes a lot to even go to jail these days, let alone, somebody who was basically molesting and raping children. And this is a prime example of a hole that we have somehow from a resource standpoint that we need to fill. So anyway, I'm very proud of these officers, and as sometimes some of us get behind the curtain a little bit further than other folks because of the nature of law enforcement investigation and prosecution and everything. And as we kind of got informed about a lot of this stuff, there are some things that having too much information where you lose sleep on. That dude right there, that it's a prime example of, as we look to where our organization needs to go, pretty amazing. So, amazing things.
And the final presentation is for Sergeant Jose Hermosillo. Sergeant Hermosillo, come. Click on that slide. So that slide you're seeing is a structured fire at Hillview Lane on June 5th of this year, 2019. And Chief Brad Lopez brought to my attention the actions of Sergeant Hermosillo on that day. And Tracy, if you click open on the video, this is almost like can be like live PD, live rescue. So our cameras, the body cameras that we implemented, automatically activate when they go code 3. And we do have any sound?
Yeah, take on that
No, it should be sound already. Oh, right, fortunately. Oh, darn it. You got it, darn it. Okay. Here, I'll fill in.
Look at that fire.
Gosh darn it, okay. Well, there were some cuss words in there, so actually I knew that's a good. Basically, Sergeant Hermosillo enters the primary structure. The residents didn't even know how to evacuate. So before the interior was grossly affected, he led them to safety. It is much better with sound. Get out, get across the street, stand across the street.
Yeah. Totally didn't sound like that. It sounded like
It made a lot of noise, a lot of popping.
Yeah, that was the other thing. It was very impressive. You could hear the explosions in the background and that. Those things were.
We'll bring this back and we will somehow get sound into this.
So Sergeant Hermosillo recognized that the other structures were in danger. Again, fire is still not on scene. He begins to evacuate. Like I said, the neighboring folks. I guess we'll cut without the sound because then other neighbors actually come to his aid, and he starts directing them. That house is already clear. And making sure that everyone's clear from like I said, the threatened structures. Before, like I said, the fire was contained to the garage. I mean, it was a nasty fire, as you can see from that first. The video actually ends with him turning around and shows now the garage is fully engulfed. So, but we can go ahead and cut it right there, Tracy. Thank you very much. So, Mark. So this commendation is for Sergeant Jose Hermosillo in recognition of your exemplary response to a residential structure fire on Hillview Lane in the city of Winters, California on June 5th, 2019. Your immediate assessment of the situation and decisive actions ensure the safety of the residents of the city of Winters. Presented before the assembled Winters City Council and on behalf of the city of Winters and our residents, and also co-signed by Chief Brad Lopez.
No, I mean, I'm glad I was there. Sometimes I believe that we are meant to be where we're supposed to be, and that time it was me. I just thank the chief for providing all the training that he's ultimately put on us, and you can see we put it out in practice. You can see all these little guys, they do the same thing, and I'm sure they would have done the same exactly like I did.
I have a question. Were you just canvassing the area, or did you hear the, because we heard the pop.
Yeah, well, I actually was patrolling in the area, and I looked up, and right about that time, yeah, I saw the smoke, and I got a call,
Okay.
and I just hit it. I was right around the corner.
Okay. Now I know.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to say thank you to all of you for your hard work and for making us proud to have you as officers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will move on to our discussion item. We have one tonight. It's a designation of a voting delegate and up to 2 alternates for the League of California Cities Annual Conference, which is in October 18th in Long Beach. So, Jesse's done a great job as our representative with the league.
I was just going to ask, do we know who's going to the conference?
I'm going.
Jesse's going? Yeah. Okay.
I know
There's
it's a
one
shock.
person going to the conference.
Shock.
I think that we should nominate the person who's going to the conference to be our delegate. Voting.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Congratulations. So we also need to select an alternate, at least one, or up to 2. I don't think we need 2, unless there's anybody that thinks we need 2. Is anybody interested in being registered as the alternate?
When is it?
October 18th.
October, 3 days, 16th, 17th, but it's always the last day after lunch.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
you know.
sure. I was the alternate.
Yeah.
There, I was
So the 18th, come on.
If I would say yes, except I don't know where I am. Tentatively, do it, we have to.
Sure. Comment?
They would have to be registered for the conference, which means, it would, registration is probably $700 or $800. Yeah,
I think Jesse's going and she might as well just vote.
Yeah. I'll go.
So the alternate has to be registered.
that's what it,
Yeah, I read
that's
that
what
in there.
it says, is that the alternate has to be registered for the conference, so.
When's the registration period? Has it already happened, or is it?
I think it's already happening. They do it because of all the hotel room thing. These are for there are more kind of diplomatic resolutions that the league does. This is completely separate than Councilmember Lauren's representation on the league board.
Yes.
This has nothing to do with the league board, really. I would describe it as a parliamentary procedure of in past years, honestly, I can't even think of what the topics were, but oftentimes they are pretty small.
Small and collaborative in nature, not necessarily, divisive in any way.
Okay, we got Councilmember Warren. I'll meet, do the
I'll be there. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the city manager's report.
So tonight, it gives me great honor to formally maybe give an introduction to Sue Mellon. Sue, why don't you come on up to the podium in case there's 1,000 questions for you. It's probably been, a couple of weeks that you've been the new executive director for the Winters Chamber of Commerce. Sue comes to Winters from the little tiny Danish village town of Solvang, down on the, is it the Central Coast?
We are on the Central Coast.
Central Coast
Yes.
of California. They are a destination community, very similar to some of the things that we're experiencing. Sue was amongst a group of folks that were interviewed, and without question, she brings many qualifications, not only as an executive director for the chamber, but also she and her husband have a business, and so the ability to bring the perspective of a small business owner, she has a great background in collaboration with not only the city of Solvang or the town of Solvang,
City of Solvang.
the city of
We are a
Solvang,
city.
but also working with economic folks, council members, with, I would imagine with regional groups on things, so maybe just
A little recap.
yes.
Yes. Okay, well, I guess my background is business. We've owned a manufacturing business, which is kind of a little bit of a dinosaur. We created sealants and coatings for manufacturing and aerospace. And I am a protective coating specialist in my other life. So I did that. I did a lot of that kind of work. And when we decided to sell that business, we were moving to the Central Coast, and I decided I wanted to do something just a little bit girly. So I opened up a retail store, bought it from a person who was in Julian. I don't know if you guys know what that is. Yeah, another little town. And so she had a jewelry store, so I bought that, and now it's actually more of a jewelry home art type place. And we have that until the end of the year. And then we've decided we were gonna close that because we were in the process of moving up here. So that's my background. I did run the Chamber of Commerce in Solvang. I worked on the Economic Development Committee for the city and also worked on the economic development for the county. So I was on both of those as voting members. And we did a lot of really good things, I think, and I'm hoping to bring some of that expertise to Winters, and we have great people to work with here in Winters, and trying to get the chamber back on solid footing and make it what we all want it to be, and support this great town that's really moving forward. It's wonderful to see. Do you have any questions?
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. Glad to have you.
Thank you. My door's always open, so
We do a couple meetings now, the chamber board meetings. You were, I think, at the first one, and you weren't even
I was an observer.
employed here.
Yes.
But, the last one, I think you're already off to a good start and the chamber.
Yeah.
Get back on some solid ground and
Yeah.
we haven't been before, but just to get us going and
Yeah.
so get some economic development in Winters.
That'd be
Meeting
awesome.
tonight.
Awesome, yeah. And there's a lot of great people who are helping me, so that's been wonderful. A lot of people who've been here a long time can give me the lay of the land, introduce me to some people, and it's great. But the reception here has just been wonderful. I tell my husband, since he has never been here, that it's like I've known people here for years, and I've only known you guys for like a week. So, you know, it's been a great reception, and I truly appreciate it.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thanks.
Just a couple more items, just for the information of the council. Next week's planning commission meeting, I plan on taking some of the comments and everything that's been received regarding the economic report. The overall goal is to bring the economic report back to the council on August 20th. So kind of working at just some of the comments and give an opportunity for the council to kind of give you some direction from there. And that's all I have.
I have just a small question. Can you tell us what's going on with the Spark Fellow?
Civic Spark.
Civic Sparks Fellow. Sparky Fellow.
So we've got a grant, partial grant for a Civic Spark Fellow to come and work on climate issues. The council actually approved a resolution on that. We held an interview. We actually interviewed 4 or 5 people, and not that any of them were forgettable, but it was 3 or 4 or 5. And we focused on one gentleman. He is a recent grad from UC Davis, and he is very passionate about the environment and things. So, no, I'm not 100% sure that all the paperwork could come in, but we do have somebody, and he's interested in working with us. And I don't know if there's any bureaucracy or anything. So that fellowship actually won't start until after September, I believe. So once that person starts, we'll probably bring him to the council meeting and introduce him.
How long does that last?
It's 1,300 hours, so however long that would last.
That's all we have for tonight. Unless anybody has anything else, I will adjourn the meeting at 7:39.
Hi, you should go to the Ag Center.
The rest of your evening.
Okay.
Yeah, they've been doing a lot
I'll
of
dig
stuff.
on this.
So, it should be a it's happening this year.
Cool. I'll check it out.
Yeah, check it out.
That guy Nolan had all kinds of information. State, unemployment is 3.5%. And freeway, 5%. Yellow County, 4. Advocate cities, we're down to 17. And, for jobs, job opening. Yes.
It's such a tremendous opportunity.
Yeah.
Reserve space,
Yeah.
So everybody's looking for this.
Okay.
It's always
Like the fireworks.
I'll let her know that you might want a couple.
Harold's always glad to see you.
You're welcome.
Very similar to what you do.
A lot of that.
So what's the name of your company?
Large one. That was one.
Yeah, that's
You know, I freeze up on those things. I don't know what to say.
They introduced me to
So
the
we're
food pantry.
Well, they're counting on some continuity.
There is
That's
a
why-
woman
That's why
called
we're
Nancy,
taking them to the
who
group, but I don't
has
know
an
what
Airbnb
phase
room,
we're in.
and it's just a little room in her house. But she has been gracious enough to give me a little
Yeah,
free
a lot of that has
break
done.
so that I can afford
She would
to live here during the week.
And
And
we know
so,
it's better.
on the weekend.
And on that note, there's like kind of,
There's gotta be a better way.
Oh, really?
As far
Yeah,
as.
that's what they all wanted to come, so it's Fort Friday.
And
They're
that's what I
pissed.
think is full for us, is
Oh,
the ability
oh,
to.
there you go.
yeah.
So what do you do in town now? So mostly we're going to the husband and her.
No,
I want a card from you
Oh,
for
yeah.
3,000 days.
So I had one more thing to add. So I went to school in San Barbara too, so I was on the other side of.
So you want San Barbara?
Yeah.
No.
So,
I'm originally a Southern California person, I just keep
I
saying
know.
that, but I've
Well,
done.
wait, because he actually.
Yeah, that's his part.
And they sent me a log of when
I grew up in Rivera,
So.
Southeast Los Angeles. Which is, I worked at Sherman for.
Oh, with the private.
Way.
I worked in Oak Point,
So does that-
South Orange County.
Okay.
I was secondly hired for the corporate company.
And it doesn't make you very way.
And I worked at San Bernardino, down to Grand Terrace. I always tell everybody, the single
It is
best,
a really wonderful community. I kept telling my husband, I said.
besides Northrop Corporation, we brought in.
I said, because it's bigger than us by a lot, but it
It was the
feels,
single greatest business.
you know, so it has